Have you seen, yet again, there's been talk about Mazda bringing back the Rotary.
Survey says...
Bullshit. Heads up, this ain't happening. There's talk about them bringing it as like a range extender, you know, to an EV engine. Why would you bother? Makes no sense. Typical, you know, Mazda PR rubbish. If we can improve on the development and the deficiencies to a point where the positives and benefits can outweigh the negatives that it provides, then we see that there is certain appeal as part of pursuing that appeal. We have started the application of the rotary engine as a range extender. It's like...
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.
In all seriousness, what would be the point in putting that amount of money and development into an engine that's really not needed? Like, honestly, just leave it how it should be. Just leave it how it was intended. There's plenty of aftermarket companies now making parts for them. Do you know what I mean? You can buy basically any part for a rotary engine.
Mazda, to their credit though, they've got that new Skyactiv, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Basically the petrol engine that has advantages like a diesel with efficiency. That is cool stuff. Like that's pretty, you know, cutting edge. Basically extending the life of a piston engine.
Huge compression ratios.
Yeah, but why would they muck around trying to get a rotary? It's
like a point of difference.
I don't know how it would make them any money though. Wouldn't I mean they would obviously have a division investigating and building when EV stuff, wouldn't you be?
Of course, but when you think current Mazda, you don't think rotaries.
No, maybe the RX-8 owners will they can do an upgrade.
They might need a range extender for their Renaissance engine.
Speaking of RX-8, saw one at Calder last night. Flat chat.
Mazda have said that the Skyactiv technology, that's going to be their selling point for the next 10 years. And it's true. EVs are not going to take over ICE engines in the next 10 years. People can say that's bullshit. It's like...
No, I reckon the crossover period, the transition will be quite long.
Yeah, but it's not going to be... People seem to think like 99% of... More than 99% of sales here are ICE engines. That's not going to be the other way around in like 3 years. Do you know what I mean? People just seem to think taking over the world. Internal combustion engines are still going to be around in our lifetime.
Oh, 100%. But EVs will obviously ramp up. But it's not just they can put EV cars on the road. You've got all the infrastructure. It's like saying...
That's a major issue.
All your service stations, gas stations, have got to be replaced with charging stations. It's more than... I mean, you can see why the transition, especially in Australia, we're not a highly populated country.
No. Now, one thing that infuriates me as someone who goes to the drags a lot is people who cannot stage their vehicle.
Last night, I've never seen it so bad. It was just shambles at the drags.
Back in China, I used to be the #1 driver.
I mean, where do you begin? I mean, there's people turning up. There's so many people are staging on their back wheels.
Hang on.
What? You gotta look this way, buddy. Am I supposed to do something?
Huh?
They just drive up and go. Just stop.
No, and then I was watching them. They're just staring. There's cones at Calder which indicate where the 60-foot is. Now, even if you didn't click
the start line.
The start line. Even if you didn't click that those cones are where you stage, surely you've kind of taken notice of what the other person's doing, or 3 cars in front of you, or what's going on. They pull up and then they just look at the starter, like, I need help. Now, you got to, you know, at some point you got to say, okay, this person's new, but when they've done it 3-4 times in a row, is it that hard? What do these guys do when they go to a car wash and it's just pull your car up, you know, into a section so it can pull it along? Do they just sit there and go, I'll just sit at the edge of the car wash and just sit there?
When you're a pro driver like me, you can do anything. Put a hand here, put here, one hand U-turn.
But there's plenty of cars, like they'll go forward obviously too fast, and they'll break the full stage beam. So then instead of just creeping it back a bit, they'll just be go back, and they'll do this 5 times, and you still can't work out, hey, you've only got a little bit of leeway to bring your car into stage. There was a car there last night, my God, a BMW. I don't know what it was, an M4 or something.
It was just bad. It was just...
He was going forward. This guy did not know. I swear, he did not know how to put his car in reverse. They're going, put it in reverse, buddy, and he's just like revving it neutral. We're just like...
Is this guy an idiot? How not to stage your car? Go!
Then the lights go green, and he rolls it forward, probably 4 or 5 seconds. So he's probably moved, I don't know, a foot.
He's broken the beam for sure.
No, he's moved at least a foot. So the counters are going, obviously, and he just stops again. And then starters are like, go, and then he finally like, oh, can I go now? It's like, yeah, mate, green means go.
That's why you ended up with a 23-second pass.
That was some of the worst driving.
And then he comes around again. Stage 2, still no idea, just sitting there. Just dead still. And you're like, what are you doing? Can't you see that you've got to get...
If you have no idea how it works, A, you should walk down, have a look. And then still, if you get to the line and you're still unsure, hey, call the official over. And go, how do I stage? Not just standing there like... Meanwhile, there's how many cars behind you wanting to run? I mean...
That's pretty infuriating for the other person racing you, especially what happened last night, how this car doesn't have water. It's a race car.
Yeah, no water in the engine. So it's only got a limited time the engine can operate before they've got to shut it off. He's up on this 2 stage. This plonker in the BMW comes out of stage. But what I can't work out is I don't know why the starter didn't just drop the lights.
Yeah, they should just red light those idiots if they can't. I mean, you see a lot of the case where the cars come into stage. Oh, sorry, they just go flying all the way through the stage, both lights, and they actually pull up level with the Christmas tree.
Yeah, they're looking up.
So they're literally probably at about the 10-foot marker of the track. Any further, they'll be near the 60-foot. Oh, actually, they're probably 30 feet down the track. They're lined up with the Christmas tree looking at it. You're like, dude, you've got to, I don't know, reverse 30 metres.
But there's so many times, like last night, there was a, excuse me, there was a Kia Stinger there. I think it had run a few 12.9s. Stages on his back wheels.
Which you seem to be quite a lot.
I watched him. I don't know why the starters just don't pull them back. I think they just go, oh, whatever.
He went 12.68 on the rear wheels.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
No.
So now he gets his 12.68 and he's probably on the internet saying, hey, I ran a 12.6, and you're like...
Time doesn't count.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
No, they don't know that.
They got this far, but
there's a bunch of cars going there and they're staging on the rear wheels.
Heaps.
That's not actually...
That is not the competitor's problem.
No.
The starter should be pulling them back and saying, hey, you're on your rear wheels, isn't it? Yeah, it's frustrating watching all that. Just get your act together when you go to the track. Have a look. It's not that complicated. Most tracks have witches cones or something to indicate where the start line is. 1,000 horsepower. What lies? Whatever makes you happy. Here's a car, 144 miles an hour, weighs, I don't know, 4,600 pounds. Simple Morosso calculator, champ.
Hang on, didn't we find a video of it on the dyno?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
That was only 950 horsepower, not 1,000, but that's 950 at the rear hubs.
The wheels, not the hubs. Lies. Bit of controversy over this bloke. So this is not the first time. By means, not the first time I've seen this reported. Bloke gets fined for parking in his own driveway.
Oh, this classic.
So how does that happen, as you say? Well, the driveway is so short. He's got a Ford Ranger. What are they, like over 5 meters long? So the car is just hanging out onto the footpath. So he gets fined by the council. Why isn't his car in the garage, you might say? Well, he's a tradie. He's got his trailer with tools and whatever in the garage. It's fair enough. You're not going to leave it there if you've got the option to put it in the garage. Now, why doesn't he park it on the street? He's not allowed to park it on the street. 150 metres, each side of his house is no parking.
Apparently, he also went to the council and said, can they... I think he was even saying, can I contribute or do something about getting a parking bay...
Yeah, put into the nature strip.
Put into the nature strip, like a proper parking bay. No.
Council,
like, no, that's
so
not
now
happening.
He's getting fined. I mean, You know what's? I don't know what's sadder. You get these councils. I mean, who is approving a planning permit where you can't even fit a car there?
How can building regulations? How can a driveway physically be that short? Because they're just cramming these cookie cutter homes onto the blocks.
The more homes, the more stamp duty, more rates. Councils don't care.
Now, I don't know what's worse. We've got 3 problems here. Well, the council finding him in the first place, they're being assholes.
Yeah.
The biggest asshole by a mile is the nosy neighbour, I should say, who dobbed him into the council. Who does this shit? What a loser.
Yeah, but when you say who does it, I mean, you can't relate to people like that. What do they do all day?
And on top of that, they had a poll.
Mrs. Mangle at the window all day.
Break it up immediately or I'll call the police.
Mrs. Mangle. I think it was good old news.com or some trash. They had a poll and said, should he be fined? 30% or so, or 20 or 30% were saying yes. Astounding. Why would you say yes, he should be fined?
Lick 'em that way. Lick 'em this way.
Just where our country's going, huh?
That's sad. That is sad. Like, seriously. And you might say, oh, his car's too big. I mean, a Ford Ranger, it's only like the second highest selling car in Australia.
It's not like he's got a limo on the bloody driveway.
It's just ridiculous.
That neighbour, though.
Everyone likes to say, oh, well, he's broken the law, he should be fined. Well, hang on, what happens when you do something so minor, like maybe do 2Ks over the speed limit? You know what I mean? You can't do anything now in this country without being fined. Or we've got to ban it. It's just let the guy alone. It's honestly not affecting anyone. You might have to just wobble your big fat ass just a couple of, maybe 10 centimetres to the left to walk around this guy's car? I mean, seriously.
As if they're walking. They drive everywhere. But seriously, that neighbour, what a bootlicker.
Lick it! Lick that boot, boy!
So this isn't something you see in the news every day. Actually, an article about raising speed limits. Why is that? Because someone with a brain, Mark Webber, he's always actually mentioned on the Australian speed limits because he lives overseas. He'd come back here and he'd realise it's just shocking how slow.
What would he know about driving?
Now, what would he know about driving? But even he was saying they need to increase speed limits here to get rid of driver boredom. As he stated, he reckons all the speed limits should go up by 15%. He says this is why the speed limits are so slow in Australia that people are not engaged with operating the vehicle.
It's true.
They're doing things like, well, they're probably just looking at the speedo, and they're looking at their phones and looking out the window and, like the Tulla freeway, 80 k's an hour. It's insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. 80 k's on a freeway.
And even he's saying in Europe, the speed limits are much higher. It forces you to concentrate. 100%. It forces you. If you were on the freeway here and it was 130, you would be much more alert doing what you're doing. You wouldn't be just one finger on the wheel.
Yeah, but then you get the naysayers. If the speed limit goes up, you're going to die.
Murder, death, kill.
Murder, death, kill.
I was going to say, what do you think of raising the speed limits? Do you think it's a good idea? Obviously not on maybe every road, but I think some of the arterials and stuff.
I see a lot of people say, oh, the roads aren't up to it, the roads aren't up to it. It doesn't mean every road is going to have the speed limit increased.
No, but decent roads like, say, Eastlink, that's a pretty bloody good road in Melbourne. How could that not be 110 at least?
But many drivers aren't comfortable doing 100, so why would you raise the speed limit?
Well, and sit in the left-hand lane.
Sit in the left-hand lane.
It should be.
When I see people say that, I'm like, you've clearly never, ever driven or even been on roads overseas. Because there's plenty of roads you go to, the traffic in the slow lane is going slow. Like, compared to the fast lane.
And you'll be in a taxi. The taxi's cruising at 140.
Yeah, but what I mean is there's a massive speed differential. Like, that's just a dumb cop-out excuse. And then it's not your right to have a license. If you're not competent on the road, hand your license in. Just
Get the out!
Like, the speed limits in Australia are just so frustrating. And then you end up pulling out and gunning it past the car, going way over the speed limit because you realise it's the only way I'm going to get around them.
Last night on the way home, the Eastern Freeway, as soon as there's a little bit of a bend, right-hand lane, some lane hogger doing 85.
Yep.
Would not get out of the lane. And I ended up going around them the long way. Just refused to move.
Well, speaking of people getting bored, or I shouldn't say bored, but just zero car control. I mean, have a look at this elderly couple. It was in the wet, and apparently they couldn't negotiate a roundabout. Might have hit the accelerator. I'm just assuming they just would have ploughed understeered and then just hit the gas for some reason, thinking it was going to pull the car out. Obviously, that's not going to work in understeer. Every time there's an accident with old people, it's always, they might have had a medical thing.
What are they driving for then?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Okay,
this accident
might have happened, but in the majority of situations, it's got nothing to do with a medical incident. It's just the fact they're completely incompetent behind the wheel. I mean, if you can't control... They're lucky they didn't kill other people. Have a look at where this car ended up. It's gone 10 metres off an embankment.
Not even down, but it's so far down the beach. Like, how much speed did they actually go off that edge with?
Yeah.
In that far away.
She was ejected out of the car. So, I don't know. I mean, the car's obviously lucky they're in a later model car with airbags, and it sounds like they've got a few injuries, and hopefully they recover okay. But this just highlights again what is going on with our licensing system. Why aren't people retested? Like, you can say you're calling out a certain part of the demographic, but it's pretty rare you see accidents like that happen, like to that degree, with younger drivers. And usually, if it is, it's because they're driving like dickheads. Do you know what I mean? It's not really an accident.
Yeah, they're the morons doing 180 and 50 zones. Sick, bro.
And they've lost it. But generally, these accidents just should not happen. I mean, there was an accident again on the freeway the other day. It took me forever to get home. I nose to tail, and all I think is, how hard is it to drive and look at what's coming up? It's just, it never ends. It never ends. Here's another one. Look at this kid. Getting done, 130 k's over the speed limit. Well, no, he got done 130 over or 130 in a 50. I don't know. Either
I think
way.
it was actually 130 over.
Over. So he's doing 180 in a 50 zone.
Dickhead.
But when you look at the car he's in, I mean, that's going to get up to pretty fast. I mean, with LS combination, LSA and that VF Club Sport. That's his dad's car that got impounded. And have a look what he's doing. He's being, I don't know. They're impounding his car and this guy's Snapchatting it. Like a sick... Now, speaking of LS's, don't forget our LS The World stickers in our shop. T-shirts, fullBOOST hoodies, tees. We've got some new barra designs coming too, so keep an eye out for them. But until next time, see you later.
Stinks, Danny.